Hello and welcome, I'm Ellie Richardson and you are watching the World Report on NewsX World. We start with some breaking news. According to reports, Germany, France and the UK have condemned Iranian attacks on regional countries, urging Iran to halt indiscriminated military strikes. In a joint statement, French President Emmanuel Macron, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer reiterated their commitment to maintain regional stability and emphasised the need for negotiations to resume in order to promote peace in the region. We're now being joined by David K. Johnston, who's an author and a journalist, joining us from New York. Thank you so much, David, for joining us here today on NewsX World and for these breakings. So as we've just heard, Germany, France and the UK have come together. What do you think the significance in this is for these three countries to come together and give a message?
Well, interestingly, their criticism is not of Israel or the U.S., it's of what the Tehran regime is doing in its defense. The Iranians very clearly have decided that sending missiles into some neighboring countries that are hostile to them. Remember, the regime is a Shia regime. Most of the Middle East is Sunni. It is a response anyone should expect from the attacks by the U.S. and Israel that began some hours ago. The biggest concern is a wider war in the Middle East, and the secondary concern is if Trump is successful in regime change, who's going to take over? There is no clear authority. It's not like 1979 when the revolution overthrew the Shah and put the mullahs in power, the Ayatollahs in power. They had prepared for that and they had a structure ready to go. So you could end up with a state that just falls into complete chaos the way we saw in Iraq and the way we saw in Libya.
Thank you so much, David, for joining us, but please don't go anywhere as we'll join back with you shortly. We've got some more breaking news for you now. According to reports, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has stated that the US must act decisively in response to Iran's actions. He emphasized the importance of firm US leadership that warned against escalating the situation into a wider war. In a social media post, Zelensky wrote, whenever there is American resolve, global criminals weaken. We're now being rejoined again by David K. Johnston. David, my question to you is, what does this sentence mean from Zelensky?
Well, Zelensky needs to keep Donald Trump on the ranch. I mean, he's not in his court. Donald's plans to end the war are essentially the Kremlin's plans. And he doesn't want to do anything that will give Trump a reason to get angry and abandon the Ukrainian people. So his effort here is to express support for him, and notice his use of the word criminal. Zelensky has consistently described the Putin regime in Moscow as a criminal regime. So there's no question who he's talking about here.
Thank you, David. Again, please stay with us. We just got some more breaking news coming in. The United States has communicated to Iraqi authorities that it strongly desires to ensure Iraq is not drawn into the widening conflict with Iran. Iraq state news agency reported, citing an unnamed source. The message underscores Washington's concern that Iraq, which shares long land borders with Iran and hosts significant US diplomatic and military presence, could become entangled in escalating hostilities between the US, Israel and Tehran. Iraq has repeatedly emphasized its reluctance to be drawn into external conflict, striving to maintain a degree of neutrality aimed at rising regional tensions. The country has significant domestic and geopolitical constraints, balancing relations with both Washington and Tehran, particularly as Iran-aligned armed troops have become active within Iraq in recent years. We're now being rejoined again by David K. Johnston. Thank you for joining us back here. What do you think this means, that they are so in the middle, they just don't really know what to do?
Well, let's go back to the late 20th century. There was a particularly deadly 8-year war between Iran and Iraq when Iraq was still under Saddam Hussein. Enormous butcher's bill. The death toll was just incredible in that war. And so the Iraqis reasonably are very concerned. Are they vulnerable? Are they going to face some kind of assault by the Iranian military? Iran, a country of 90+ million people, has 1 million trained soldiers. Not all of them are active duty, but trained soldiers. So the Iraqis are reasonably concerned about how this is going to go for them. And of course, they are basically now a vassal state of the United States.
And David, with Iran constantly giving out threats to the Gulf in the Middle East, how do you think other neighbouring nations are feeling at this moment? Do you think there is a sense of panic going through them?
Well, just weeks ago, the governments in Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and 1 or 2 others all said that they did not want to see military action against Tehran. They were very concerned this would lead to a wider war. It would lead to missiles being launched at them. So there's a lot of concern about that. And there is this long-standing 1,000+ year tension between Sunni regimes and Shia regimes. And in Iran, you have the most sophisticated country in the Middle East, a large culture with deep history that the U.S. ought to be able to turn back into an ally. But instead, the U.S. government, under both Republicans and Democrats for the last 72 years or 73 years, has done a brilliant job of ending a millennium of enmity between the Russians and the Persians and driving them toward each other and separating any American interests from Iran.
Thank you, David. Again, please don't go anywhere, as we'll join back with you shortly. We've got some more breaking news. Saudi Arabia has confirmed that Iranian forces launched strikes on Riyadh and eastern region of the kingdom. The Saudi Foreign Ministry issued a statement strongly condemning the attacks, describing them as blatant and cowardly acts of aggression. According to the statement, the missile strikes were repelled by Saudi air defense systems and no significant damage or casualties have been reported. In response to the attacks, Saudi Arabia emphasized its right to defend itself, affirming that it would take all necessary measures to safeguard its security, including the possibility of retaliating against Iran. The kingdom made it clear that it would protect its territory, citizens and residents, and would not tolerate further aggression. This escalation follows a series of growing tensions in the region, particularly between Iran and its regional adversaries, including Saudi Arabia. While the Saudi government has not specified the exact nature of the response, the statement signals a potential for further military action if the situation worsens. The strike on Riyadh and its eastern regions marks a significant development in the ongoing conflict, as both countries remain deeply entrenched in their respective positions. Some more breaking news for you now. Israel's military chief, Lieutenant General Eyal Zamir, stated today that the ongoing strikes on Iran represent a campaign of completely different scale compared to last year's 12-day war. He described the operation as more complex, noting that despite the short preparation time, it was intensive and thorough. Israeli officials also confirmed that the completion of a broad strike targeting Iran's defensive systems. We're now being joined by Glenn Grant, who is an ex-advisor to Defence Minister of Ukraine and a geopolitical commentator. Thank you so much, Glenn, for joining us here for these developments with this conflict. Now, as we have heard, Saudi Arabia hasn't ruled out retaliation. They haven't specifically said what, but they said that they could fight back. Do you think it's a possibility for them to?
That's a very good question. I mean, I think that will depend upon if they think that it's going to have any effect. I can't see them striking back just for the sake of striking back, because unless someone is actually going to cross the border with feet and go in and do something, then there is a high chance that you can kill lots of the members of the regime, and there are still others behind who will follow them and who will take their place. So just killing people, I don't think is going to be sufficient to shift the regime out so that the public can actually do something. I mean, there are lots and lots and lots still of other nasty people to join the Ayatollah and the Republican Guard type crews in this country. So they can go on. How many people are they going to kill? And it's more likely that both Israel and America will run out of missiles before they actually get to the stage where they could kill all the people they need to kill. And I just don't see that. I don't see that Saudi Arabia are going to be particularly happy in joining in something that is not going to be a winning war.
Thank you, Glenn. Please don't go too far, as we'll join back with you soon. We have some more breaking news. The United States has advised its citizens in Lebanon to leave the country while commercial travel options remain available. The US Embassy in Beirut issued a warning urging Americans not to travel to Lebanon. The US and Israel launched bombings on Iran, which led to retaliatory missile attacks from Tehran. Lebanon's authorities say they are closely monitoring the situation. More breaking news. China has expressed deep concern over the military strikes launched by the US and Israel against Iran. The Chinese government has called for immediate cessation of these actions, urging no further escalation in the region. In a statement, China emphasized that Iran's sovereignty, security, and territorial integrity must be respected. Furthermore, China has called for the resumption of dialogue and negotiation efforts to uphold peace and stability in the Middle East. Meanwhile, global leaders continue to monitor the situation closely. More breaking news. Iran's foreign minister has called the international community to hold the criminals accountable following the recent wave of US and Israeli strikes on targets in Iran. In a phone call with his Russian counterpart, Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi stressed the need for decisive action, but the United Nations, particularly the UN Security Council, to stop the ongoing aggression. Furthermore, Iran is urging the international community to take immediate steps to prevent further escalation. We're now being rejoined again by Glenn Grant. Thank you for joining us back here for these updates. Now, as we just heard, Abbas Araghchi stressed the need for decisive action by the United Nations, especially the Security Council. How should we take that statement from Iran and saying that they need the UN to step in when also Iran is launching strikes within the Middle East?
Well, and frankly, I mean, there's nothing that United Nations can do or indeed would do. I mean, they can all get together and talk, and Russia will condemn America and China will condemn America, but that's about it. There's nothing else going to happen. So it's just a waste of his breath, actually. And he probably should know that already. But hey, I'm amazed that Iran decided that they're going to hit back at so many places, especially Saudi Arabia, because it's hardly a good plan when you're being hit by America and Israel to go and fire at everybody else, because you just bring more people into the game on the other side, and I don't think that that's a particularly clever idea for them, because as I said before, I think if they just if the regime just holds on, then America and Israel will run out of missiles after a while, as we did in Libya, and nothing else serious can happen after that, because I don't see Americans putting boots on the ground. But United Nations, just words, nothing else.
Thank you, Glenn. Please stay with us as we'll come back to you shortly. At the Kapikoy border gate in Turkey's Van province, Iranian citizens are seen crossing into Turkey, with some carrying luggage and others walking through departure gates. Some Iranians have reached. Let's listen in.
Allah sonumuzu hayreder. Allah şu an benim ailem memlekettedir. Ben ona göre dönüyorum. Savaşmaya gideceğim. Eğer beni istese ben giderim.
Köpek gibi gelip harlayıp hürleyip gidecekler. Hiçbir şey yapamazlar İran'a. İran devleti.
Supporters of Iran's National Council of Resistance protested outside Tehran's embassy in Berlin, saying a change in their home country could only come through the people, hours after Israel and the United States launched strikes against Iran, which they called preemptive. Let's listen in.
Die Menschen in Iran möchten Freiheit, Demokratie, ein säkularer Staat, wo Staat und Religion voneinander getrennt ist und wo die Menschen ihre Volksvertreter selber wählen können.
Wir sagen, dass ein Wandel im Iran nur durch die iranische Bevölkerung und seinen organisierten Widerstand herbeigeführt werden kann und schlussendlich für Demokratie und Freiheit. Der Wandel kann nur durch die Menschen im Iran und seinen organisierten Widerstand herbeigeführt werden.
We are now being joined by Raymond Vickeries, an international affairs expert and former US Assistant Secretary of Commerce, joining us from Washington, D.C. Thank you so much, Raymond, for joining us here and for these latest updates. Now, as we just heard, there are people protesting in Berlin for their country to come back to their people. And in the Trump's video earlier today, he said that people of Iran need to take back their country. Now, do you think this has been a need for a long time for Iran's heads of states and higher officials have not been very good to their citizens, and this conflict has now proven again that they have let them down, do you think?
Well, thanks very much for having me and allowing me to comment on this. It seems to me that this is a sad day really for the United States and for the world. The United States seems to have shifted under President Trump from waging peace, which requires strategy, partners, and principles, to one of waging war. The Department of Defense was earlier renamed the Department of War, and it now appears that that is for good reason. It is true that this is a terribly oppressive government in Iran. But it is not the case that simply resorting to bombing multiple cities, saying you're going to kill everybody in the Republican Guard unless they lay down their arms immediately, saying you're going to annihilate the Navy of Iran is a way in which to serve the interest of the people of Iran. As we speak, bombs are falling and innocent civilians are being killed in Iran. President Trump has said that the Iranian people should now take over their government. it's very unclear how that happens if there isn't some plan in terms of arming people, of having some succession in terms of how you pull together the opposition forces. But this is not the approach of President Trump in waging war. His approach is a transactional real estate approach in which you have a confrontation and it's over. He earlier claimed that the 12-day war had obliterated the nuclear capabilities of Iran, and yet one of the demands being made today is for Iran to stop the enrichment of the nuclear fuels that fuel the weapons of war. So this is a contradictory approach, and in the United States, of course, we have a situation in which each of those things that President Trump ran on, namely taking down inflation and having an immigration system which is just and not being involved in international wars. Each of those principles are being crossed over, and the reaction has not been favorable to President Trump, all the way from the Epstein files to the actions in terms of trying to repress freedom of the press in the United States. And now in the United States, President Trump is talking about taking over the elections here. So this is all of a piece, if you will. It is the Trump approach of diverting attention in the United States from the real and serious problems, of brushing aside the Congress's right to declare war, which is plainly set out in the Constitution. So this is a very grave time for the United States.
Really, sorry, Raymond, we're just running out of time, but we'll be back with you shortly. Following the retaliatory Iranian missile strike, Israelis in Tel Aviv have sought shelter in underground car parks as sirens have blared throughout the city. Many rushed to safety, with some expressing hope for a peaceful future, while others voiced concerns over the ongoing tensions. The lack of safe rooms in many central Tel Aviv apartments made underground shelters essential for protection. Meanwhile, as the situation remains volatile, residents are preparing for further conflict, keeping emergency supplies on hand. Regardless of the uncertainty, they need for safety remains a priority. Let's listen.
We woke up to a siren after a long period of tension. We're happy to see something is happening. I am too. And I hope that this action will bring a better future. I hope that it will bring quiet for a long time. Hopefully this regime will collapse. And I don't know exactly what they're planning, obviously, but I hope it will bring better futures for everyone in the region, including the Iranians.
As you can see, it's the place to be when it's unsafe outside. Most of the buildings, most of the apartments in Tel Aviv, in the center of Tel Aviv, don't have a safe room, shelter, because of the bombing from Iran. So we decided to come here, me and Guy and my dog. Personally, I think it's the right choice to defend our country, to defend our people. Then Iran said that they will not stop controlling the bombing, and they will keep pushing any proxies against Israel and against the people of Israel. So I think it's the right choice to make Iran free now from their regime.
Well, we woke up to the siren this morning, and we understood that there's an attack going on, and that we need to be prepared. We were already prepared with our emergency backpacks in case this happens, and so we just once we got the alert that there is a missile attack, we came to the shelter.
אם זה יהיה מצב של תקיפה, כן, בטח, תחזור לזה. נביא את האוהלים, את המזרונים, נביא את כל הציוד ונגור פה.
We are now being rejoined again by Raymond Vickery. Thank you, Raymond, for joining us back here. Now, as we just heard in some of those clips, there was some Israelis saying that they're happy about this strike because they feel like their country is now sticking up for something. What do you make of those statements from those people?
Well, I think that those are statements which are reflective of a certain strand of political belief in Israel. The supporters of President Netanyahu, I would say, yes, this is the right way to go. But there are people in Israel as well who see that the need to have a broader framework for peace does not include simply attacking and trying to wipe out Iran, because the issues are much broader than just a one-to-one relationship between Israel and Iran. Throughout Western Asia, the Middle East, there are fires burning, whether it be in Lebanon with Hezbollah, whether it be in Gaza, whether it be in Iraq, Syria with ISIS. And so the idea that you're going to bring peace simply by firing off missiles and destroying your enemy is not very realistic. It seems to me that the United States particularly would have learned that with what has happened in Vietnam, in Afghanistan, in Iraq, in Libya, that this one and done approach does not bring peace. And so, yes, there are going to be supporters in Israel who take the position that this is a great thing. They've always wanted to see Iran destroyed, and therefore destroying Iran will bring peace. But that's not the history of the world, and it's not the history of the last 50 years or so. So, yes, one hopes that there will be saner heads to prevail, and that somehow military force could be used as a part of a program to wage peace. But this is not the way forward. And I believe that the folks that you have interviewed in Israel are going to be sadly disappointed if they believe that this will bring peace.
Thank you, Raymond. Please stay with us as we will join back with you shortly. We have some breaking news now. According to reports, Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi called for the international community to hold the criminals accountable after the US and Israel launched strikes on Iran. In a call with his Russian counterparts, Araghchi reportedly stressed the importance of decisive action by the international community, especially the UN Security Council, and urged to ensure accountability for the actions of the US and Israel. More breaking news for you. United Nations Security Council is to convene for emergency session. This comes after US strikes on Iran took place earlier today, after which retaliatory strikes from Iran took place. French President Emmanuel Macron had earlier called for UN Security Council meeting. We're now being rejoined again by Raymond. Thank you so much, Raymond, for rejoining us back here. Now, we've just heard that the UN is now coming together to talk about this matter. Now, do you think now the UN Security Council is involved, we're going to be anywhere near any diplomatic talks, or is this conflict going to go on for an extra couple of days now?
It'll go on, in my view, for longer than another couple of days. One of President Trump's goals has been to destroy the United Nations. He's made it perfectly plain by withdrawing from 66 of the UN organizations, by talking about how ineffective it is, and putting together what he calls a board of peace, really to be able to substitute for the United Nations. So it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, that you say the UN is ineffective, and you make it ineffective by withdrawing any support from it. So it will be a forum for discussion, and that is always more welcome than dropping bombs. But as far as having any effect in terms of what the administration is doing, President Trump's view of the world, that might is right, my way or the highway, that's not going to be changed by anything which is going on at the United Nations. And it's a very, very sad commentary that the rule of law, the United Nations system, the principles of non-aggression, non-imperialism, which are in the Charter, are being thrown out the window in this new era. The damage has been done. We'll never get back to that. Nevertheless, it is possible for nations around the world, other great democracies, whether they be India, in Europe, Japan, in Canada, to be able to step forward and provide some restraint to try to get us back to a system in which the rule of law, the principles of non-aggression, which were fundamental to the United Nations, will be observed.
Thank you, Raymond, for joining us here today on NewsX World. That is all we have time for. Keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from around the world.